So let's go over how we would bind a sample application to the co-resident plan. If you recall, we had a service we made called co-resident that reflected the microgateway co-resident plan. Also, if you remember, we created a sample app, which when we curled that, all we got was a hello from CF app. However, since the co-resident plan installs microgateway inside the application container itself, we actually have to make a new application. So if we go inside our directory, we have a application, which is just a Node.js application, along with a couple other different things. We have a plugins directory and a config directory. So if we look inside this config directory, all we have is a YAML file that Edge Micro needs to run. And if you look inside this plugins directory, this would be any plugins, custom plugins that Edge Micro might want to use. So for example, a response override plugin or a bunion logger plugin. If we go inside our manifest, what we have is a name of an application. So in this case, it's going to be sample-co, because we don't want to be the sample app we used earlier. We're going to specify a little bit more memory because we have Edge Micro running inside the application as well as the application. And then number of instances is going to be the same. Host is going to be sample-co. And we have this new health check. And this health check is actually going to check both Edge Micro and the target application itself. So it's going to check the health of both of those applications. And then the path, we're going to push everything inside this directory. And then we don't specify a build pack here because we have the meta build pack, and that doesn't work if you specify a build pack. So we're just going to leave everything to the meta build pack and just let it run on its own. And we also have a couple environment variables in here. We have Apigee Microgateway proxy, which if you change the name of the proxy that gets created when you do a bind, or if you just want to use a specific one, you can specify that name here, and the microgateway will hold down that proxy. If you have any custom plugins, like we mentioned earlier, you can specify that plugins directory in here. And then if your application is worried about having other applications run with extra processes, you can actually specify how many processes you want your Edge Micro to use. In this case, we'll use a default value. And then we also have some mandatory environment variables. We have a config directory you have to point to. So in this case, this points to that config directory up here. And you also have this Apigee Microgateway custom JSON policy. So inside here, you have a tag called policies, which is a list of different policies you might want to configure. For example, we have spike arrest, which allows 10 per minute. And then you have a sequence, and this sequence corresponds to the policy order. So in this case, it's going to hit the health check policy before hitting the spike arrest policy. So if we actually go ahead and do a CF Apigee push, it's going to ask us, do you want to use the co-resident plan? We're going to say yeah. It's not going to be a Java application, so we're just going to do sample-co. And what this will do is it will upload all the application information to Cloud Foundry and create that route, but it's not going to actually start the application. So if you do CF apps, we'll see that sample-co is up there, and it has all the memory and disks all set up, but it's not started yet because we want to do the bind before we start it for the co-resident plan to work. So what we can do now is actually do a CF Apigee bind MGC, and we're not going to use the bearer token. Use kvz at google.com. We're going to do a proxy bind, so we'll want to make proxy and bind the application. We're going to do test. Rosamare demo 5 was the organization we're using. We're going to use sample-co. Whatever your microgateway key, you're going to put that in here. And then your microgateway secret, put that in here. And then the service instance, remember, was co-resident. Target application port, so this is whatever port your application is going to be running on inside the container. So in our case, it's going to be 8081. The route is going to be sample-co.apps.pcf.apigee. And so this will actually push up a proxy bundle to Edge, which will reflect the base path and everything else we need with this microgateway instance. So we're actually going to say, before we start it, we're actually going to look at that. So if we go over to our proxy console, we can see that we have this Edge Micro app that proxy just got created with the sample-co base path, and it points to localhost 8081. So we'd like to start the application now. We're going to say yeah. And this is what actually stage the application. And we can see that the meta build pack took over, and we'll actually find out that we want to push a Node.js application. So it'll invoke that build pack, and then it will go through and set up our deck creator with it as well. So it'll go ahead and install Edge Micro as well as any custom plugins we might want in here before starting the application. Cool. So we can see our app has started, and if we do CF apps, we have this sample CO app. The request is started, and 1 out of 1 instances are running. So if we actually curl this app, we get back is hello from CF app. And if we invoke the spike arrest, we can see that Edge Micro is running. So spike arrest got engaged, and the request didn't go all the way through. So now we can see that Edge Micro is working inside the application container, which means that the co-resident plan is working, and your app is now secured with Edge Micro.